It's a question I asked a week ago. Can Georgia's defense have a dominant performance over Kentucky? Could they have a dominant performance over Auburn? I've been asking every week. Now, will they have a dominant performance up in Nashville against Vanderbilt? I think that this year, Georgia's defense has been a little more inconsistent through 6 games. I think if you go back to the last couple of years, I think they were a little more. Obviously, in 2021, that's its own thing, right? In 2021, they were dominant throughout the whole season, right? The only game that they didn't really have a great defensive day was against Alabama in the SEC Championship. So that's beside the point. Can this 2023 team continue to have dominant performances? Because I think that, the Ball State game, that was pretty dominant, but UAB, you allowed 3 touchdowns. UAB. UT Martin, it's game one. I'm going to cut slack for game one. And then Auburn kind of runs all over you, right? And it's a struggle fest in the fourth quarter. You're fighting to win that game. Georgia's defense does come up with some key stops, but, they're part of the reason why Georgia was in the position they were in against Auburn, which wasn't dominating, and it was because the defense was not shutting down Auburn in a very elite way. Against Kentucky, I know they allowed the 2 touchdowns. I know that Georgia allowed the 2 passing touchdowns to Devin Leary. But these numbers, man, you just look at these numbers, and you guys watched the game. Devin Leary was 10 for 26, 129 yards, 4.9 average yard per throw, per completion, I think. It's got to be. Something like that. I don't know what the 4.9 is on this. There's no explanation. But I'm looking at ESPN stats right now. There's no explanation for what the 4.9 is. But I'd venture to say that's average yard per completion or average yards per throw, something along those lines, which is really not that much. 4.9. Right? I think that you'd see around 10 being a much, much, much better number. It's what Carson Beck ended up with, having the 10.4 against Kentucky. But then you move along to the defense. Ray Davis, he has that huge game against Florida. He balls out. He has like 280 yards. He has the 4 touchdowns. Kentucky, they run all over the Gators. He gets 15 carries. He only gets 59 yards against Georgia's defense. He gets 3.9 yards per carry. They held, if you include, once you add it all up and you include the sack yardage that Devin Leary suffered, right? 55 rushing yards is all they allowed to Kentucky. That's all that the Dogs allowed to Kentucky. Now, is allowing 13 points dominance? It's a good question. Because, it wasn't a shutout. They allowed not 1, but 2 touchdowns. So can you say this was a dominant performance? I'm going to say, yeah, it was a dominant performance because this is a Kentucky offense that we've seen can put up some points this year. Right? It hasn't been a consistent team, but it's been a team that has been able to put up points that they needed to, and they couldn't do that in Sanford Stadium against Georgia's defense. I think, look, the health obviously mattered, right? Getting Javon Bullard back. I think getting Smile Munden and Jamon Dumas-Johnson, their chemistry back a little bit as Smile Munden worked through his, minor injuries earlier in the year. I think that Dalen Everett being a first-time starter at corner, we all know how that goes. It's really hard, right? Especially you know what? There's great receivers all over college football. Let's just put it that way. It's a really talented position right now. You got to be good at the cornerback position. Dalen Everett is playing against SEC starters at receiver for the first time. And, he's had some misfires. He's had some, maybe not the right way to put it, he's been beat a couple times. He's, had a couple PIs, I think. He definitely has at least 1. But I think he's starting to play a little bit better and a little bit better. People kind of tend to forget. Think about, you know what? Well, you could play that game for the last 2 years. Go back 2 years ago. I know Keely Ringo was an electric player at Georgia. I know Keely Ringo was the guy that had the pick 6 against Alabama. He was the guy that had a handful of picks that felt huge, at Georgia. He wasn't great from the jump. He wasn't a really, really, really good corner from the jump in 2021 when he was a first-time starter, right? And 3 years in a row, the cornerback 2 for Georgia has been a second-year player who's a first-year starter. Keely Ringo in 21, Kamari Lassiter in 22. And now in 23, you've got Dalen Everett. But then, so in 2022 is the same deal. Kamari Lassiter, I thought he struggled through the first month or two of the season. I remember him getting beat a little bit. I remember him, having a little bit of trouble, and then he turned it on, and he definitely got better as the year went on because he was out there for those significant snaps for the first time in his college career. And these guys are all talented. I don't think it's a terrible assumption to say that Dalen Everett is probably gonna get a little better and a little better. And I started, honing in on Dalen Everett a little bit here, but what I'm saying is true about Keeley and about Kamari and about Dalen. If you just watch the games, these guys need reps to get better. And the first time start, it's true for a first time starter. Look, against Vanderbilt, they're going to go up there, and I'd venture to guess, if things go according to their plan and what I think the plan should be, is they're going to dominate in the first half. And you're going to see a lot of younger players mix in on both offense and defense. You're going to see a lot of freshmen. You're going to see, right, it's going to be reminiscent of the cupcake games in terms of people rotating in and guys getting reps and everything. So will we see a dominant performance from the first team defense? Let's be more specific there. From the first team defense. Because Vanderbilt has, man, you know what? It's the coaching staff's always calling me. Making sure I'm not saying anything crazy. Something like that. But will the first team defense shut down Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt's offense, look, this is an improved Vanderbilt team. I've said this. I think they're moving in the right direction. I think I wrote this in Final Feelings. Vanderbilt's moving in the right direction. Now, I think a lot of teams might be moving in the right direction. Maybe they're not all moving at the same pace, and maybe the finish line's not the same for all of them. But I do think that Vanderbilt has a positive trajectory right now. And I think they're better than they were a few years ago. Doesn't mean I think that they're going to have any fun with Georgia. So, my score prediction is 52-10. Just because I think at some point Vanderbilt could get a touchdown, whether it's garbage time, whether it's early on. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I think they'll get a touchdown, and I think that they could get a field goal. Can they get in scoring range twice and convert compared to Georgia doing it 52 times or for 52 points? Yeah, I actually think that you could see like a similar score, a similar stat line as last week against Kentucky, but maybe a little bit with a different distribution among the players. Maybe the running back room really splits carries. Maybe Cash Jones gets some more touches, right? On defense, you see freshmen like C.J. Allen play a little bit more, and Pemba, Raylan Wilson, Julian Humphrey, I think is going to play no matter what. He's obviously a rotational corner for them, someone that they want to get reps in there at least a little bit. So can Georgia dominate Vanderbilt defensively? I'm going to venture to say yes, and allowing 10 points, right? I'm going to say that the first team defense doesn't allow any points, right? That's dominance. Thanks for watching.